You know that feeling where you just got a new camera or a new lens, and then the whole time you've been so excited to go and make really great art with it, and then you go out and take loads of photos and they just end up not really feeling like art, and then you enter a depressive spiral and wonder if maybe you should just give up and go back to your real job. I mean, what even makes a photo art in the first place, other than the artist having a moustache, a matcha latte, and a trust fund? Unfortunately, it's a bit more complicated than that, but there are 3 very simple and important concepts that you can keep in mind when you're taking photos absolutely anywhere that can really help to push you in an artsy-fartsy direction and not in a boring, snoring one. So I'll tell you, and along the way, I'll show you what I've been up to with my new Nikon Z6 III. Let's start with this painting. Yes, painting, hear me out. This is The Scream by Edvard Munch, which aside from being the first ever documented YouTube thumbnail face, is a quite famous example of expressionism. And that's the first big idea to fuel your creative juice machine. What you'll notice about this painting, if you're paying attention, is that this is not an accurate depiction of the real world. Go figure, our friend Edvard was painting how the world felt to him at that moment. Some people reckon he was having a panic attack at the time. If you've ever arrived to a shoot and then realized you left all of your SD cards at home, you felt like this. Here's how I would feel if you subscribed so that we can hang out and talk about photography more often. Speaking of, photographing in an expressionist way just means that as well as showing the viewer what you saw, you're also showing them how you felt. And sometimes that means that your photos don't need to be perfectly realistic, or perfect or realistic at all, like The Scream. If you think about the photography that feels the least like art, it's probably like Amazon listings for dog food or like real estate ads. Those photos are still important and they still take skill to do, but let's be honest, they're not going in an art gallery anytime soon. But also, those photos are often the most objective and realistic. They show us exactly what the thing looks like, and if they do bend reality, it's to make more money by making the hotel pool look bigger than it actually is. But if we take the reality slider in our brain and turn it back just a little bit, you can start to take photos that show how you see the world and how you feel about it. See, we're not just trying to take a photo of a house to show you this is what the house looks like. We're trying to show you this is how the house feels. But that's not always as easy as it sounds, right? Because you have to kind of be very aware of what actually it is that you are feeling. You actually have to get quite in tune with yourself. Therapy? No thanks. I already have a camera. What do tripods have to do with my relationship to my mother? Let's look at a specific example. Cars. Cars are really fun to take pictures of. Lots of people love cars, but if you go very surface level and the feeling that you are expressing in your expressionism is cars are cool, then you're not really adding anything. It's not very personal. But if you really think about how these specific moments with these specific cars are making you feel in the moment really deep down, then you might take a photo that expresses glory or community or the grit and adrenaline of pushing a car to its limits. You get the idea. Also, side note, yes, I am using my own images as examples of good ones. I just think there's this really yucky idea in some art circles that you're not supposed to think that your own art is good. And I disagree. Maybe I'll do a video about this, but the SparkNotes version is if you think your photos are good, say so. Be proud of your work. I digress. So how do you actually do expressionism? Well, if you just want a little subtle push, you can use things like basic color theory. I mean, you can just make your photos that are sad a little bit bluer, make photos that you want to feel sick a little bit greener. Or you could use like harsh, dark shadows to make a photo feel epic or punchy or mysterious. On the other hand, if the photo is leaning towards happy feelings, you could use things like flash or a slower shutter speed, or you could make it really light and airy and all the colors really vibrant. If you want to go more extreme than that, you could really push your images around in the edit and make crazy unrealistic looks, or you could use super wacky lenses like fisheyes to really make your audience wonder what the hell is going on. And that brings us very nicely to our second big important idea. Questions. What questions? Exactly. Well done. If you think about those photos that aren't artistic, they're almost always communicating an idea really clearly. here is what the t-shirt looks like. Yes, it can be a pretty photo, but the primary goal is always to give you information. On the flip side of that, artsy-fartsy photos often don't have that goal at all. Instead of giving you the information, they make you ask loads of questions. Like, why was this photo taken? Where is this? And what's happening? And then, on a deeper level, how do I, the viewer, feel about that? Maybe you might question your own opinions or ideas. How does this photo make you feel? And what about this one? When you're out taking photos, instead of trying to think of each photo as a whole story, it might be easier to think of each photo as a question or a prompt. I've often found that a lot of my favorite photos have come out of experiencing something strange, and not like in an X-Files way, but just something a little different. I really like this shot, for example, and it's not that weird, but the combination of a brand new SUV in such an old street is just enough to make me go, huh. Coincidentally, all of those photos were shot on one of my new favorite lenses, the Nikkor 40mm f2, which I picked up for the Z6 III. I don't know what they're feeding them at the Nikon lens department, but it's working. They have been putting out some absolute heaters lately. If you want to learn more, there are links in the description to that, plus all of my new upgraded mirrorless kit. You don't need to go weird though. You could just start by deliberately taking photos that don't give the audience all the information they might need. Maybe you cut off important parts of the frame or use shadows or blur. I guess the point to the questions idea is that I disagree with Kant, who thinks that art is just art, and I agree with Tolstoy, who thinks that the goal of art is to transmit a feeling from one person to another. Basically, I think art needs an audience, and I think one of the key things that can make a photo successful as art is how deeply it connects with the viewer, how much impact it has on them. Unfortunately, for you, when the viewer sees it 2 inches wide on Instagram for 4 seconds before commenting fire emojis, they don't really get an opportunity to do that. I think Instagram is a way to consume art, but not a very good way to interact with it. Instagram is kind of like the digital equivalent of sprinting through an art gallery. If you haven't gone to an art gallery, found one piece that you really like, and then sat in front of it for 10 minutes, go do that. Luckily, there's a way that you can do this for your viewers, and it's thanks to today's video sponsor, Framer. Framer is an online tool that makes it super quick and easy to make and publish websites. And you can use it to build your own online art gallery so that people can actually go and connect with your photos on a deeper level. It's really easy, and to prove it, I built a reference guide for slow shutter photography. I'll link it in the description below. All I had to do was have a look through the huge library of templates and find one that worked well for showing off photos. Then I made a few tweaks to the design, I uploaded my photos, and I typed in what I wanted to say. It was so easy that I could do the whole thing in an afternoon, and if you're more advanced than me, that's not a problem because Framer have some really advanced tools. The templates and pre-built sections make it really easy, but you can get your hands dirty and do loads of custom stuff. It's even got advanced analytics features, things like A/B testing and even localization, so that you can share your ideas all over the planet. Even if you aren't a professional photographer, I still think that it's really important that you have a place where you can share your art online, especially with the way that social media is pushing hard towards video. Having a website where you control how your photos are seen is so much nicer than a social media grid, and it can lead to a lot of opportunities you might miss out on otherwise. And like, let's be real, your grandma doesn't have Instagram. Does she just not get to see your photos? Come on. So this weekend, sit down and build yourself a portfolio website with Framer. Sign up for free using the link in the video description, and while you're at it, make sure you use the code HunterCreates for an upgrade on the house. A massive thank you to Framer and to you for supporting what I do. The third and most important thing to keep in mind when you want to take artistic photos is time. And I don't mean shutter speed. Look, there's no checklist for what makes a photo good. You cannot Excel spreadsheet your way into art. The only way to tell if a photo is good is by seeing how much you like it. But what if you're wrong? What if you say a photo is good and everyone else says it's poopy no good? Well, you might be wrong, but if you have enough experience and practice and taste, then you can tell everyone else that they can go and get better. Developing your taste as an artist is mission critical, and the only way you can do it is by putting in the reps. Listen, I know it's not the most fun, exciting, clickbaity thing in the world, but nobody can teach you how to be good at art. Not me, not Picasso, not the guy at the fish and chip shop. Nobody. That's not how the force works. It's an intuitive, creative muscle that you have to build over years, except instead of bench press and skipping legs, it's go and take photos, get your film scans back, and then hate yourself for the rest of the day over and over and over and over and over again. Shoot more often, shoot more when you're there, and spend more time looking at your photos after the shoot and noticing. Notice how they make you feel and what you like and what you don't like and what you didn't get that you wish you had. That's one of the reasons I always make sure I have ginormous oversized SD cards, because I never ever want to delete anything, even my bad pictures that I know are bad. Or in the Nikon Z6 III, it's actually CF Express cards. By the way, I let Angelbird know that I was upgrading and they were kind enough to send over a card and a reader. Big shout out to them. Thank you. If you need storage for your cameras, I cannot recommend them enough. They're a friend of the channel. Big fan. But Hunter, you're saying, how much time?
So how long is this going to take?
Good news. It depends. But I think a really good mindset for me to have earlier on that I still have is that getting really good at art takes 10 years, which to be honest, it basically is. I'm 8 years into this full time and I'm still learning and developing my taste. When you've just messed up a shoot really bad, or you're doubting yourself, or you feel like your photos are no good, it's really comforting to remember that you aren't a complete fucking loser with no hope of ever finding true happiness. You're just a beginner. But time doesn't just mean your whole career, right? It also means in the shorter term. You know my second favorite movie quote of all time? It's this.
You can't rush art.
Like, for example, if you want to set up an editorial style shoot, but you only spend 20 minutes doing any pre-production or planning, it's probably not going to go that well. Ask me how I know. But if you spend a couple of days organizing people, figuring out how you're going to light it ahead of time, doing wardrobe and hair and makeup and all that stuff, you will have a much better experience. And you'll also take less time to get the shots you originally planned for, which means you'll have more time to experiment. And on an even shorter time frame, if you spot something in the street that you want to take a photo of, don't just take one photo and then move on. This was one of the biggest mistakes I made in the first couple of years of street photography. You've got to spend some time in the scene, moving around, waiting for more things to happen, looking through your camera as you pivot your body around and try to figure out the best way to take the photo that you want to take. There's this really great clip of Jeff Malmstein talking about how he saw a shoe that was on fire in New York once.
Sometimes a picture will happen single, but often it will not happen that way. And clearly I have a memory of the burning shoe. When I saw burning shoe, I couldn't believe it. When I was like, how much film do I have? So I had like 3 rolls that day, and I have at least maybe, 7 frames. You know, they're going to vary. This has a particular pedestrian, a particular amount of smoke and distance. I really worked the shoe.
The point is, art is a bit like poo or love. You can't force it. You just have to put yourself in a situation where if it happens, it's a nice bonus. And once you manage to combine a bit of expressionism and a bit of asking questions and give it enough time, you'll end up taking photos that, yes, are very pretty to look at, but more importantly, are interesting. I mean, if you think about movies, Transformers is technically insanely impressive, and I think it looks visually really great, but it's never going to get the same respect out of the art community as something like Casablanca, even though I think they're both super fun movies to watch. I think the main difference is that when an audience watches Casablanca, they feel more emotions, they ask more questions, and they think about it after the movie for a longer time. Here's looking at you, Optimus Prime. Now, you might be saying, but Hunter, thanks for that, that's all great, but how can I do those things? Because I live in nowhere and it's super boring and nothing ever happens. Good news for you, because I'll teach you the most important techniques to take banger photos in boring places when you watch this video next. Stay hydrated and create art.